Hey guys, Isabel here. Welcome back to Reeled In. Today is another Dyad Discusses on finally some more Star Wars content, the Book of Boba Fett. Today I have with me, I will always have with me on my Dyad Discusses, my friend Connor. So the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 1 has come out. Like how they did chapters, because the Book of Boba Fett, it was a real side thing. But this is the first live action Star Wars content we've gotten in, I think, a year, like a whole year. Because obviously we had the Bad Batch, but that's animated, and not many people have a kind of like a stigma against animated. You and I don't. We like the animated stuff. But
and I'm constantly fighting that battle because the Bad Batch I thought was awesome.
Yes, but now we have live action Boba Fett, a character that a lot of people really enjoy. But you and I think, agree we don't really see the appeal of him.
I mean, I see it. You
just don't. He's never really been on my radar.
I just don't. Whatever it is, I don't.
He's never been on my radar. I've never wanted to learn really more about him.
I don't hate him.
I don't dislike him at all, but I
sometimes don't get the hype.
I've just never thought about him other than when I see him on screen. But I told myself I was going to keep an open mind while watching this series because I'm interested in what the series will explore for the expanded Star Wars universe.
Same.
What I will say though, and this is pretty like from the actual opening, is I actually do like the music. It's very similar to Mando with like the Western, like it's the same composer as well. But this one, I think it has a bit more like otherworldly vibe because you have actually people in the music, which is kind of rare, except for like Duel of the Fates and another one that I forgot for Star Wars. Obviously, okay. Also, quick question on timelines because sometimes I don't always have my timeline straight. The flashbacks are like a week or two after the Return of the Jedi.
Like at most.
Okay.
At most, it's a week.
Okay, and then the events that happen, like, in the present is after the events of The Mandalorian Season 2.
Which is like 6 to 7 years after Return of the Jedi.
Right, but it's specifically after Mandalorian 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
cool. Remember, that was the whole point of having an Easter egg.
In the end of the end credits. Okay, cool. Because then as a discussion, I do have some, like, issues. But what I did not I guess we see that he's been healing. Obviously, Boba Fett is in the bacta tank. Also, for some reason, I forgot all about Star Wars when I was first watching this.
I saw it and I'm like, do I have to watch these with you?
In the
background?
I don't know what was happening because when I was editing my reaction, I was like, oh yeah, the bacta tank. I called it like healing water. Like, Isabel.
Said it's like healing water like Darth Vader, but horizontal. There were a couple things, and I'm like, I was saying when I was watching your reaction, I was saying out loud, I'm like, well, this is that. It's a sarlacc. Because you're like, big tentacle thingy. I'm like, it's a sarlacc pit.
I knew it was called the sarlacc, but
there were a couple things.
There were good things. I forgot
Tatooine. I don't ever want to hear you pronounce it Tatooine again.
It's Tatooine. Tatooine. Whatever. That's not a big issue, I don't think. Also,
we're not going to put this in. We fight a lot. I
forgot Jawas. I forgot the name. I cut it out of my reaction. I was like, oh my god, those Ewoks. Like I had to cut that one out. I was like, people are going to think I know nothing about Star Wars. What else did I say? Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, Star Wars is so cool. I love Baby Yoda.
Yeah, and I love him so much.
It was just like a Dark Vader.
Yeah, I forgot the Tusken Raiders. I call them Sand People, which I guess isn't like...
Well, they're known as the Sand People.
Okay, because I was like wanted to know their real name. I just like don't know what happened.
Their nomenclature.
I just blanked on everything Star Wars. Oh, the banthas. I was like, the animals... I just forgot everything. But then as I was editing, it all came back in. To be fair, though, my brain has been on Harry Potter and Marvel for like the whole year.
And finals.
And my master's degree. Yes, that's where it's all been. Not Star Wars. Until now.
Because we haven't had any content aside from the Bad Batch in quite a bit. So
yeah. It's been like a year.
we haven't been doused. Mm-hmm. Well, it's been 6 months, right? 'Cause didn't the Bad Batch finish in like August?
Yes, August or September. Yeah, August, September, around there.
September. So it's been around. It's been close to 6 months.
Yeah, not gonna lie though, for a hot second, I was like, Darth Vader. Like when they pulled in on like the bacta tank with then there's like this mouthpiece in Boba Fett's. I was like Darth Vader, but I was like no. He's not in here.
Long since dead.
Yeah, he's dead. He's gone.
he did.
Yeah, but I do like the means of having like the bacta tank be kind of like where the flashbacks happen. Like as he's healing, he like remembers his past in a way. Because that's what that whole thing is for, I think. Like that's the whole reason, except for like besides healing himself. It's to like.
It's the Polynesian spa.
Yeah, to transport you to all of your.
Those memes were ahead of their time.
So at most, this episode did, I think, serve just to kind of answer questions on like where Boba Fett has been for like I think what he's been doing. But I do have a little bit of an issue with like, okay, so he's been in that Sarlacc pit for like a week essentially, like at most.
Couple of days to a week.
Okay, he just like wakes up.
Because unless he like ate the Sarlacc, I think he would have starved before he ran out of artificial oxygen. But then he would have run out of artificial oxygen long before the Sarlacc digested him, because that was one of 3PO's points. You go into the Sarlacc pit and it will digest you for the next 1,000 years.
Also, like you can only survive, I think, like a day, like 3 days at most without water. So, like, unless his
That's what I was saying. He'd starve long before he suffocated because of the artificial oxygen.
Yeah, but I'm a little skeptic.
As soon as that runs out.
I'm a little skeptic that he just kind of, like, woke up, like a week late, like a couple days later in a Sarlacc pit. Like, in the throat of it, I guess. Personal opinion, though, but I just think it's a little bit hard to believe. But I did like, because there's a lot of, like, things I did and didn't like. I liked how it showed how he is quite smart. He went to that, like, trooper and pulled out his oxygen line and used it for himself. Smart. He used his flamethrower to like get out. I thought it was funny because my mom and we watched The Mummy with Brendan Fraser last night, and the scene where Boba like sticks his hand out of the sand is like an exact replica of like The Mummy sticks his hand out of the sand.
It's also, if you are a Parks and Rec fan, if you go to the Filibuster episode where Patton Oswalt is literally reciting the same exact scene, it matches perfectly until he mentions Dengar. It's like...
That's all the way back in 2013.
I know.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy.
See the future.
Was Patton Oswalt, did he have any part in this whatsoever?
I think it was also supposed to represent like a zombie, like someone who's supposed to be dead but like comes back to life basically. But the Jawas, they come and kind of randomly, but they take his armor, which corresponds to chapter 9 of The Mandalorian season 2 with
Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, so, you know, when Cobb Vanth has it, I like that connection. I thought that was cool. We got to see how the armor got taken away. And you told me this even before the Boba Fett trailer or anything came out, that, like, Boba Fett in the comics, which I think is Legends now, he got rescued from the Sarlacc pit.
So in Legends, Dengar, who we saw in episode 5, and then we actually saw a little bit in Clone Wars, was kind of like his BFF and just helped him out of the pit. He just
randomly showed up to the pit and was like, let me help you out of there.
Well, because I think, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was one of those things where it's like, oh, where's Boba? And
no.
I know he's not on your radar, but he's definitely a character like in the Star Wars universe that if he goes missing, like people are gonna be like, all right, what's up? You know, they're gonna wonder where Boba's at. So I think he was working for Jabba, and that was a pretty well-known thing, I think, at the time.
I did like the decision though to get himself out, because I think it shows like by himself, so, like it shows like his own capability, you know, other than, because there's like this rule kind of in writing that like you can get your characters like into trouble through like convenience, but you should not get them out of trouble through convenience. And I feel like if Dengar showed up, I think it would just been a little bit too convenient, you know.
Well, I thought they were going to retcon it and have Fennec do it instead.
Oh.
Which...
But he hasn't met her yet.
Which I'll have to go back to, because I thought he said something.
You said, because in the the Tusken Raiders discover Boba, like just like laying there in the sand. You said when you were originally watching it that they don't travel that far.
At least I don't think so, because the Dune Sea, the Sarlacc pit in the middle of the Dune Sea is like way out of anybody's way. So either they just happen to be on that trail and they happen to see him. Like, I understand why the Jawas are there, because going back to something happens to somebody and they're not just going to be like, oh, that's too bad. Like, Jabba's like yacht party, turns to shit and explodes. Mm-hmm. That's going to make the Tatooine news. And Jawas are going to be like, oh, payday.
Oh, true, yeah. I didn't think about that.
So it makes sense for them to be out there. I don't know if it makes a whole lot of sense for the Tuskens to be out that far, but I could be wrong.
I mean, they do have that, like, desert tent set up, which you do see a little bit of when Anakin goes to kill them.
But they kind of dwell more in the canyons just because they can stay in small numbers. Mm-hmm. And they can blend in a lot better with their surroundings. Like, that's not to say that they didn't ever go out into the Dune Sea. It's just like they definitely had to have had a reason.
But I do think it's interesting is that like Mandalorian season 2 and then now Boba Fett, I feel like they're really trying to shed a different kind of light on the Tusken Raiders, because in like the originals and trilogies and prequels and everything, we were kind of just like, oh, the Tusken Raiders just like vile, like violent people, like not even like people, just like things. And now like in Mando, like the people and the Tusken Raiders work together to defeat a greater, bigger bad. And now it's like we get to see the Tusken Raiders like way of living, which is like pretty tribal, I would say. So I think that's like something that they are trying to shift like perspective of the Tusken Raiders.
And there are definitely reasons for that.
There are definitely reasons for that.
Which I don't think we need to get into. I think it's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Obviously, Boba Fett gets captured by the Tusken Raiders and is kind of treated as like a slave, which is interesting because he does the capturing and everything. And I get that Boba Fett is like quite injured, but I'm not sure if like when he's having that initial desert fight with the chief of the Tusken Raiders and he loses like very badly, I'm not sure if that's like supposed to show that without having his armor, he like doesn't really know what to do, or like just that he is quite like discombobulated still from being pulled out of a Sarlacc pit.
I mean, I went for a run today and, like when you're dehydrated, you see the world differently.
That's true.
And it's the desert.
I just think that it's interesting because I feel like over the years, Boba Fett has been painted as this like warrior, unstoppable force of nature. And
well, I think maybe that's what this show is going to do, is it's going to humanize him a little bit. Mm-hmm. And give him a little bit more character development other than baseless badass or real whiny kid. Because the Clone Wars definitely painted a different light. And it didn't get to finish that arc, but definitely from what we've seen, he was kind of an entitled, very aggressive, kind of whiny, bossy kid.
Yeah, out for revenge against Mace Windu.
Who thought he was all that. Mm-hmm. Or even in the later season, where like he has a band of bounty hunters. Like he's made friends and he's made a name for himself, but his personality is still kind of insufferable.
I mean, it is an interesting way to start the character, because it also leaves room to like for the character to like go somewhere, instead of him just like maintaining, like you said, maintaining bounty hunter-esque thing. Okay, obviously he's been healing. He looks better in Mandalorian, but that makes me confused because he gets fatigued very easily in the present fight scene, whereas in Mandalorian season 2, he held his own very well and continued to hold his own for like a couple days at a time.
Yeah.
Whereas this one fight scene, like he got punched around a couple times and then couldn't even walk to his like back to tank.
And I don't think he had a back to tank inside of inside of his ship, and I don't think he had time to go to Tatooine and back.
Yeah, so from
Tython. Tython's like on the complete other side of the galaxy. Last time I checked.
Mm-hmm. And he's still like injured because like he still has like scarring on his face in Mandalorian season 2, whereas now like you can tell his like he's more tan. He's obviously healed a little bit. at least physically.
Eyebrows somehow have made a fantastic recovery.
So that one part I am kind of confused about, and I would like to know why, because I'm sure there is a reason. Hopefully there is a reason as to why that is a thing. I would just like to know why. I feel like Boba Fett should know more languages.
I mean, I was surprised.
Because he does not understand a single per thing. Any of the Tusken Raiders.
Any bounty hunter, like even Mando, even Din Djarin for that matter. Like, I get it. There are some languages that are in the minority, but in the grand scheme of Star Wars, I would expect a bounty hunter to at least be able to understand a different language.
Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't understand anything the Tusken Raiders say to him. And when he's getting this tribute from like all these different people, he's like, we need a protocol droid. And I'm like, you don't know? At least something like that they're saying to you?
Yeah.
So
it makes me wonder if he knew Hutt at all. Because I know you need an interpreter for some things.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't need it. Like, for us in this world, there are primary languages. There are definitely some languages that are harder to learn or that are in kind of the minority. But like English, Spanish, French, German, Latin, Cantonese, like anything that's on the instruction book, like those are just to name a few of them. So you would expect him to at least be able to read some of those other languages and understand some of those languages. Because like, I don't know French, I don't know German, but like I can still sometimes like, foot my way around it. Spanish I can kind of sort of read. Mm-hmm. So
also, do you think when one of the tributes was paid, it was like a pelt? Do you think that was like Wookiee, like a Wookiee pelt, or just like random fur?
It looked like a Wookiee arm, and it makes me nervous.
That's so
I know
sad.
It's not Chewie, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just like, ugh. The Wookiees have been through enough.
I know. Where did you get the Wookiee pelt from?
I mean, poor Wookiees.
Because they're
poor Kashyyyk, and you know what Kashyyyk was like over the last decade.
What I do think is interesting though is that there is this mayor of Tatooine, and they definitely set up a future conflict between Boba Fett and this mayor that we don't know of.
It's got a really interesting complex because did this guy kind of start to feel all high and mighty after Jabba? Because in lore and even in what is considered to be like canon, like Jabba was like the big man over not only Tatooine but that whole like system. Like there are other planets, other systems that are in Hutt control, and he was kind of seen at the head of the council by a lot of them.
Maybe he came when Bib Fortuna took over.
And that's what I'm thinking. Maybe there's a different mentality from some of these new characters, and there's a little bit more hostility. Because I have a feeling Bib didn't do much. Like,
he just got fat.
He was like me, and then he somehow turned into
the size of Jabba.
Which is not healthy for a Twi'lek. Like,
he was just sitting there getting fat and happy.
So I don't think he did a whole lot, and it allowed for other people to come up and rule.
What I do think
it industrialized Tatooine apparently, because Mos Eisley was huge. Mos Eisley has never been that big ever.
I do think it's also interesting, especially you see it with the mayor. No one in the city that he visits seems to be taking Boba Fett seriously, and also treats him kind of as a joke. And that makes me wonder, do they kind of have they heard of Boba Fett? I'm assuming they have, obviously, because Boba Fett has spent time on Tatooine with Jabba for a little bit.
He spent a lot of time on Tatooine.
Yeah, and they're all like, okay, here's your tribute, good luck. So I just think that's very interesting that you get the vibe of people who are like, he's not going to be here long, kind of deal.
Unless they heard about what happened to him and they're taking it as a joke. Be like, you were bested by Han Solo when he was blind with carbon sickness. And that's kind of the mentality that fans like you and I have had. It's like,
yeah, he got defeated by a blind Han Solo on accident.
On accident, exactly. Boba Fett, where?
Into the Sarlacc pit. But also, I'm not sure how to feel about the approach he's taking to becoming this new crime lord. Because he's like, I don't want to rule out of fear. I want to rule out of respect. Which I feel like there is a reason this is only episode 1, so we don't know what that reason is yet. But also, as opposed to his character in the originals, and then in the comics even, this is quite a character difference.
And I think it's a weird way of humanizing him, where some of it is due, but some of it I don't know.
I don't mind the character change. I would just maybe I would like an explanation onto how this happened and why he thinks this way.
Also, historically, ruling out of respect in the crime syndicate doesn't bode well for people.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you don't become like Jabba, and you don't become like Maul, ruling the entire underworld from being respectful.
Yeah, which is why I kind of think there also may be a future conflict between Fennec and Boba Fett, because Fennec, I guess, owes Boba Fett her life and therefore is like his partner, and she kind of like just does what he says out of having like a debt to be paid, like a life debt. But I feel like Fennec was like the star of this show, at least with like the moves and the physically being able to handle herself, and she's the one who is like, she knows kind of how I feel like to be like a ruler of like a crime syndicate. I got the vibe from you that you were not happy with how the city was portrayed, because as you said, it has never been that big and is quite industrialized.
Not that I wasn't happy about it, I was just surprised.
Okay.
Because they would have had to industrialize in like a really short period of time, which is very possible,
mm-hmm.
especially in the Star Wars universe with the technology that they have to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a new mayor who's like, I can kind of do whatever I want, because there's nobody, pushing me down with their big slimy, sluggy tail.
Yeah.
So maybe they completely industrialized and metropolitanized.
They're also using Republic coins now, when everyone was paying tribute to Boba.
Which is really interesting, too. I mean, Tatooine was liberated. They've always used whatever the main power, the current power base, whatever currency they used. Like, they used Imperial credits during the Imperial Civil War. They used, I think, Republic credits. The Empire occupied Tatooine in that whole 20-year period.
I think I do keep forgetting, though, especially with this episode, because we have like 3 different timelines to keep in mind, that like in the present it's been like 5 years after.
But that also makes me wonder, like, are they using Republic credits because they were liberated by the rebellion, or is that because the New Republic came into formation and then the mayor aligned with them?
I have no idea.
We don't know yet.
Also makes me wonder if the group who is using the energy shields and like called like shock batons or something, if they work for the mayor, because the mayor's domo was like, you guys better be careful because you didn't pay the mayor tribute, which is like I can't believe you said that to Boba Fett, to be honest.
Well, I think that's something that we're going to learn in the second episode, because this episode didn't really go into that. It was more of a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of a flashback episode with little glimpses of the present, which I have mixed feelings about. I don't know. Some people really don't like this show, but I'm just like, it's not done.
Yeah.
It's not done. It's a pilot episode, even though there's only 7 episodes.
And it was a very short pilot episode, too.
Yeah.
But I think there are mixed expectations for this show, which is why I kind of like how I didn't have any expectations of it. Which is why I kind of liked how I did not have expectations for it, because I'm never really disappointed that way. But people who really like Boba Fett
must be nice.
I feel like want to see this like badass character, do his thing. And then there are people who are kind of just watching it to watch it, and also just to like kind of see where it goes.
I'm only here for Fennec.
Yeah,
I'm only here for Fennec and just to kind of see where it goes. But the only other thing that I don't think the show is going to dive into, which is something that has been driving me and so many other people bananas, is the formation of the New Republic. Everything that leads up to the sequel trilogies. That was one of the most frustrating things about the trilogies. Everything that leads up to the sequels. Because one of the most frustrating things about the sequels is there was so much stuff that was not explained in the sequels. So Because, like, even in the originals, and I'm beating a dead horse at this point, everybody has kind of said the same thing. In the Empire, comparing it to the Empire, you know there's an Empire. You know why there's an Empire. You know what an Empire is. What is a First Order? I mean, we know what a First Order is now, but, like, what really is it?
Yeah. How did it come to be?
Yeah. How and why and what is the New Republic? Why is the Resistance? It's and I just don't know if this show is going to explain that. I love the underworld. I think it's really interesting, but in the grand scheme of things, I still have that burning question. A lot of people still have that burning question, but at the same time, given the end result, do we really care?
Yeah, I don't think this show might hint at it as it did with these like Republic credits that we have been paying tribute, but I think it maybe will hopefully be explained in another future either movie or TV show.
It was probably supposed to be Rangers of the New Republic, but
right. So before we talk about the last like quarter of the episode, which is another flashback, going back to like Boba Fett in his wish, I guess, to be like this big crime lord on Tatooine, which I don't know why he picked that place to be a crime lord, to be honest. But like he is quite, except for Fennec and those two like Gamorrean guards, he's quite like by himself. Like Jabba had so many like under his tail. I'll say thumb, but under his tail.
Like his thumbs too.
Yeah, under his thumb to like, you know, to help him rule essentially, because Jabba didn't do anything. He just sat there and like gave out orders. But Boba Fett is like quite by himself, so I actually don't know how he thinks he's.
Jabba did stuff. He just did it from the comfort of his own chair.
But yeah, that's what I mean. He had other people to do it for him. Oh. So like, I don't know how Boba Fett is gonna think he's gonna do this, and I actually don't even know why he wants to, which I'm sure we'll find out in the series.
And comparing it to Jabba, it's kind of a hard thing because historically the Hutts as a species and as like a clan and all that, like they have a history of kind of being at the center of the crime syndicate and like drug trade or spice trade, spice trade, and you know, underworld crime and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to come from, and I know there's the whole Book of Boba Fett thing. I kind of doubt that it comes from the same background, but it's only episode 1. So,
is there a reason why it's called the Book of Boba Fett?
I have no idea.
Okay, it's probably just aesthetic, but
I have no idea.
But then we get back to the flashback, the last flashback of this episode, which is long. Also, just to say that Rodian could not stand him, but was also voiced by Sam Witwer.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was Sam Witwer who does Maul on the Clone Wars.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know, and I don't want to be problematic, but for some reason, I had to take like a double take, and I haven't looked it up yet, but the male stripper, the Twi'lek stripper, I didn't know if it was Sam or not, because I'm like, they kind of look...
Oh, I don't know that.
So I gotta go back and look at the credits for that one too, because I'm just like, I don't know, because like he's a pretty fit looking dude, but you know, I wasn't sure.
But in the flashback, we get a moisture farm raid, and when I was reacting for a split second, I was like, Luke's home, but it's like, no, it's not his. And then which I wonder, but that's in the past, but I wonder if that will still play a role into like the present issues we have going on Tatooine, which we haven't gotten too much on, but have been hinted at. Well, and then there was a symbol that was drawn on the side of the buildings, and I was wondering if you knew what that symbol was.
I don't recognize.
Okay, I'm assuming it's it's like a new crime syndicate of some sort, like some sort of organization, is what I'm assuming it is.
And that's what I'm wondering. The guys who had the electrogaffy sticks and the shields, I don't know if they're from that syndicate. Because I think it would be awfully weird if they were pawns of the mayor to just kind of do that kind of stuff just like out in the street, you know? It's certainly not a very good career move in my opinion, but what do I know?
It could also be that woman who owned the Sanctuary pub.
Again, I don't think it's a good career move though. If she wanted to deal with him, she could have done it right then and there.
I mean, you don't want to lose
like
patrons.
Inside.
You don't want to lose patrons, though. Like, I feel like, because you have to be discreet to some level, you know?
As
like a businesswoman.
It's tough, because there was some stuff that was brought up in the first episode, but there's still a lot that has not.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of have a little bit of a
contention.
A contention, because it set up some stuff, but it like didn't quite follow through.
It's also only episode 1.
I know, but you know how first episodes, like, they do a pretty good job at setting things up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this didn't quite follow through.
She also did not seem to take Boba very seriously at all. Like, she's like, the sanctuary is yours now, and was kind of like, mm-hmm, and like walks away. And it's like, obviously it's not his, like, you know, it's still hers to some degree. So then we have that desert creature, because the Rodian and the Tusken Raider child and Boba are digging for desert urchins that have water in them, because that's what that design was. It's literally a sea urchin without the noodles. And then has this creature. Like,
don't eat them.
The creature like explodes out of the sand.
I think it's called a behemoth.
A behemoth? I think that's a new creature, right? Like, it hasn't been in any...
I think it was inspired from other creatures, but it's not... That exact design isn't in lore. Kind of like how the Krayt Dragon from Mando isn't quite a Legends Krayt Dragon, but supposedly that was also like the mother of all dragons kind of dragon.
Yeah, because it was quite big.
It was quite big, but it didn't have any like arms or anything. So like... In Legends, they kind of look more like a Komodo dragon.
Okay. But then Boba strangles the creature like how Leia did with Jabba. How she strangled him with like his slave chains, which I thought was really nice tribute, if that's what that was.
Symbolism.
What I did like about this flashback is it kind of shows how Boba got in the Tusken Raiders like good graces, because obviously he defeated this creature, saved this child, Tusken Raider, and let the child have like the glory of bringing like the decapitated head back, which then gains the leader's trust. Like, he literally gives him water, which is like what you need to survive the desert, and also will probably set up how he gets his gaffy stick that we see him have in the Mandalorian season 2.
That's true.
Because he doesn't have that yet.
That's true. I forgot about the gaffy stick. I forgot that the gaffy stick was like a big thing.
Yeah.
But maybe it's like experiences like that transformed his whole mentality of, oh, I'm gonna rule from respect.
That's what I'm actually like hoping. Like, I'm hoping that these flashbacks give us like an insight, it will give us some insight.
I just hope they don't happen every time.
I wouldn't mind a flashback in each episode, as long as they're not like 12 minutes long. Like these two were like very long flashbacks.
Where it dominates the episode.
Yeah, because then like.
Because there's also only 7 episodes in the season.
Mm-hmm. And if they're all like 35-minute episodes, not the best recipe. Also, what I think is also going to be a conflict is that the whole city basically either saw or is going to quickly know that Boba Fett was very easily indisposed of by the people with the shields and had to be like dragged back to Jabba's palace. I'm actually interested to see how that will play out, because you have this big bad person who you've been told for years is a big bad person and have seen a little bit in like TV shows and movies and stuff, and now here he is getting his ass handed to him. I'm also not really sure, except for like crime, like the underworld, what this show is going to contribute to the Star Wars universe.
I know that's part of the thing. It's like, while it's really cool, there's still other things that need to be said.
So, I mean, I have hope. Like, I'm still going to keep an open mind when I watch it. I'm going to watch them all.
Like, I definitely think it's going to be a character-driven narrative as opposed to plot-driven. Like, the Ahsoka one obviously is going to be character-driven, considering what we are left to assume is going to happen. Like, it's very obviously going to be a character-driven story, but there's also multiple characters to pull from, not just limited to Ahsoka and Thrawn. There's still Ezra, there's Rex probably, which I can't wait to see again. In live action, which we've never seen.
Oh, and Sabine. Yeah.
And there's talks that there's going to be interactions with like a Force Ghost version of Anakin or something. So Like, it's definitely going to be more of a character driven, whereas, like, this one I'm not too sure, because all you kind of have is Boba.
And Fennec.
And Fennec.
I heard, though, I think, because they were like, oh, episode 1, you have, like, so many cameos in episode 1. Obviously, it did not happen. But I think there's a lot of talk that there are going to be, like, really big cameos in this series, which may be true, may not be true.
Like whom?
I couldn't tell you, to be totally honest.
I couldn't tell you. Disney told me everything, and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Okay.
But I know, like, based on trailers, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of cameos, but also probably a lot of new characters that are going to be introduced. Just based off of the trailers, I know there's at least 2 new characters we're going to be introduced to. And I know
I'm just trying to think who's out there. Unless it's more bounty hunters. Unless it's like
it's probably
like
more
Dengar and Boskin.
I feel like there'll definitely be more like seedy underworld characters if we do have cameos.
I love how I was like, Maul. I'm like, Maul's been dead for so long.
Yeah, he's been quite dead.
Maul has been dead since before the Death Star exploded. Like, you don't need to get y'all.
That is one thing, just so like,
funny.
If they keep doing the backflashes, and the backflashes stay consistently at his time with, like, the Tusken Raiders, like, those are very big time gaps. It's like 5 years.
Yeah.
So, well, hopefully that works out well. But I think that's something that people have to keep in mind, is that there are time jumps. Gets confusing. Well, overall, I give this first episode a 7 out of 10.
I give it I'm gonna wait.
Really?
Out of 10.
Okay.
Because sometimes it contributes to the full story. Kind of like how you seem to view the sequels. You're like, oh, well, I'm not gonna rate them until after Rise of Skywalker comes out, because it might be different as a whole.
I was being quite optimistic when I said that.
I was arguably very optimistic too, but I sound like such a hater. It's just frustrating sometimes because they have all the devices to make it work.
I'm saving my overall judgments until the show is finished. But, like, as an episode, like, wasn't the best episode I've seen, but it wasn't the worst.
It's just weird storytelling. It's not bad storytelling. It's just kind of weird.
It's weird because I feel like it's like a puzzle piece storytelling, and we only have a couple puzzle pieces to see. So, but, like, 7 out of 10. You know, I didn't hate it, didn't love it. It's in the middle. Passed.
It's an episode of a show.
Well, guys, this has been our discussion on the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 1, A Stranger in a Strange Land. Not sure why he's in a strange land, because it's Tatooine, and he's Boba Fett. But anyways, be sure to leave a like on the video. Comment, what did you think about this series? Has this been a series you've been wanting to see for a while now? What are your expectations? Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when I upload future reaction as well as discussion videos. And Connor, thank you for joining me. My personal Star Wars encyclopedia. It's always a pleasure to have you. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.